This is episode 117 of the Equestrian Author Spotlight podcast. I'm Carly Cade, and today I'm speaking with Mary S. Corning. Mary changes lives by defining the transformative power of pain. As a mentor, speaker, life consultant, and writer, she clearly and compassionately models this process through her messages and stories. Mary extends her philosophy into her world of horses, where both people and horses benefit from realizing a different way to interpret challenges. Great teachers have offered support and blessings that caused a shift in Mary's perception. That shift, in turn, changed her world, and it can change yours too. Settle up for a conversation about how Mary has navigated her way through addiction and codependency, the way her education in life expanded when she met her teacher, Ray Hunt, and how we all can learn that we are enough. We are enough. Now, let's get into the interview. Welcome to the Equestrian Author Spotlight podcast, a podcast featuring interviews with equestrian authors who love all things horses and writing about them. In each episode, you'll hear inspirational stories from horsebook authors, including writing advice and marketing tips to help you write your very own horsebook. If you're an author, aspire to be an author, or simply love horsebooks, then you are in the right place. I'm your host, Carly Cade, and creative writing makes my spurs jingle. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Equestrian Author Spotlight podcast. I'm Carly Cade, and today I am so excited to welcome Mary Corning to the show. Mary, thank you for being here.
Hi, Carly. I'm so excited to be here too. It's just lovely to meet you and be a part of your podcast.
Mary has written a book called Perfect Practice, a philosophy for living an authentic and transparent life. I read this book and it just blew my mind wide open, and I'm so excited to have this conversation. But before we dive into Mary's book, how I always like to start the show off is asking, how have horses touched your life?
Wow. Well, in every way possible, really. As I write about in the book, is that it completely transformed me and kind of brought me home to who I originally was, who I was born to be. But I got really lost when I was young and kind of I went down some pretty rough roads, and I was really looking for something that could ground me and bring me back to something that I could really believe in. I fell in love with the horse, the mountains and riding and the forest and nature. And so that all just came together to lay out a path I still am on today, all these years later. So really, they introduced me to myself in a way that nothing else on earth could.
And so are you like many of the authors that come on the show, that it's like it was there from the moment you were born, this love of horses, or did it come to you a little later through challenges? Like, were you always the horse crazy girl, or did horses enter your life a little at a different stage?
Yeah, it's a great question, because yes and no. I was born with it for sure. I mean, that was something I always knew, but I was raised by a single mom who had 4 children in the suburbs. It didn't lend itself to really taking lessons or anything. We were really kind of struggling as a big family, and back then, a single mom, that wasn't as popular as it is today. And so I always begged her that I wanted a horse. And she would say, "Oh, darling, all little girls dream of horses." And I thought, I'm thinking this is different. And so I ended up buying my first horse when I was 21, and moved out and earned enough money. And that story is there to be read.
Yeah, and that is the thing, like the desire to own a horse. I think I started working when I was 16 at like a music store in order to afford my horse during tumultuous family situations where, I was also are a child of divorce, and but it
Uh-huh.
taught me responsibility, and there was that what you touch on so much in your book, which we're going to get into, is like that connectivity.
Yeah.
It just gives you a place to go, but it also teaches you so much responsibility in horse ownership. So good on
Yeah.
you. 21, go get that horse. You don't care about the parties and the boys. You're all about like connecting with
Oh,
the
no,
horse.
I was totally into parties and boys. Yeah, that Oh, yeah, that's in the book too. No, it's actually funny enough that it saved me from that.
Mhm.
I moved out very young. I was
Mhm.
15 when I moved out, and so by the time I was 21, I had my own business and I was, uh, making my own decisions. So it was a very non-traditional, let's say, childhood
Mm.
and into early adulthood. So, but you're right. So the responsibility I'd kind of already put that into my life by being a business owner and moving out early and doing those things. The horse gave me freedom.
Mm.
It gave me freedom from everything, from
Mhm.
my own insecurities, from my own not enoughness. It's
Mm.
like that's what I meant when I said when I was with the horse, I came home.
Mhm.
I meant like home here.
What I love about this is you've created something from a painful past and a bumpy childhood, and you've like invented yourself around this. So you change lives by defining the transformative power of pain. And I think you've already touched on pain a couple times, like
Yeah.
in this conversation. Talk with us about your work and like and how you took pain and created something transformative for others, and what
Mhm.
services do you offer? How do you beyond, the book
Yeah.
is one way, but like how are you using what you've learned to help other people?
That's an important point that you bring up because that to me talks about the application.
Mm,
So we have these experiences and these amazing epiphanies and that, but if it doesn't transform our lives, if we're not able to transfer that into the application, it kind of gets lost, and then habit and patterns and that return and somehow dilute that amazing power that we found when we found that freedom. I have a very kind of pit bull mentality. When I love something, I go all the way, and I just felt compelled to share with other people how this can apply in your life. So it started with the horses, but then I started working with people and their horses because, as you probably know, and many of your authors have shared, that the horse isn't the problem.
mm,
It's the relationship there.
mhm,
They're fine without us, you know? And then when we come into it, there's this relationship. So I realized that really early in my horse life, and especially with my mentor and my teacher and what he offered. So I started seeing that if I applied the same heart, and that's an important word, that I felt with the horse to my human relationships, I thought I wouldn't think of a horse that way. If he kicked me, I'd wonder what I did to get in his way.
mm,
I mean, I would be taking responsibility for my life. And so as it evolved, I started telling people about this, and it grew kind of organically into this working with people more than working with horses. And I still work with both. I work independently with a horse or a person and also with people and their horses because it's all the same to me. It all the same wisdom applies. And that wisdom, I mean wisdom, not knowledge. I mean, that comes from the person. So, specifically, to be kind of practical, I people send me videos sometimes with their horses, and I talk with them like we are here,
mhm,
person to person. Uh, People come to my home where I have my office, and I do personal sessions
Mm.
with folks. And I have some lovely long-term clients that I'm proud to say are long-term, because this isn't an end result kind of work. It's not the 7 habits of, healthy people and then you're done. It's this growing, organic, evolving kind of. And so then I also help some folks uh, with their horses to understand the horse more. I'm not a trainer. I'm not a riding instructor. In fact, I don't do anything like that. But I do work with horses daily. And the transformative power, usually the horse has introduced the pain, and the person says, I can't do this anymore. He's bucking me off.
Mm.
And that's the pain that brings them to a different way of seeing things. And that's really the bottom line of what I do. I don't tell them anything they don't already know. I just help them see things differently, and they find their own answers.
Yeah. As I read your book, it's about the relationship with others, and particularly horses, but also the relationships that we have with ourselves. I mean,
Yeah. Oh,
you
yeah.
really pulled back the veil and got really honest about, about our humanity and how we're entering the world and the relationships that we have. And you use horses as like the catalyst, which is they're a perfect funnel for that kind of work. You have to be in the
Absolutely.
moment with them. And
Yeah.
so much of what I read through your book was about being in the moment and grateful and appreciative. And it just really resonated with me. So why, talk with me about your teachers and talk with me about like why you decided to take this on. I mean, I know you mentioned you had a challenging childhood and there
Mhm.
was, some substances that came into the
Yeah.
picture for you. So
Sure.
talk like what sparked this? Why horses? Who are your teachers? How did you get on this path? Because this is a awesome shift and like a
Yeah.
positive direction that
Yeah.
you created for yourself. But like how did you do that?
Yeah. How? That's a good one.
Yeah, no.
How did that happen? How'd I get here? Um, well, I was all the only word that comes to heart is grace.
Mm.
That I really somehow was graced by meeting a man who would help me to. Actually, the book is dedicated to my teachers, and the main one being Ray Hunt. And I don't know how that came to be, but I bought my first horse. I had never had a horse. I used a area rug for a saddle pad,
That's awesome.
I mean, I knew nothing, and I bought a mare off a dude string. So when I took her off that dude string, it was every man for himself, and I mean, she was going to kill me, And so I was in this corral, and this trainer gal was in there, and she said, I might be able to help you. And I said, oh, thank God, somebody, you know. And she said, well, she was an absolute Ray Hunt devotee.
Mm.
And she said, "You gotta meet Ray." Oh, sorry, I get
No, no, that's like a magic moment. Like, and good on you for noticing and being like, okay, this thing is happening to set me up on this path to go in
Oh,
this
yeah,
direction to meet this person who is going to
yeah,
have an influence on my life. I mean,
yeah.
that's like the magic. But you have
And
to.
he's still that was oh gosh, I'm gonna age myself here, but nearly 40 years ago. That's a long time, Pat,
Mhm.
and still Ray is with me every moment, every moment. I have a uh, 2-year-old filly that was out of his mare. And
Oh.
I've it's the most deepest gift a gal could imagine to still have that connection through the horse.
Mhm.
It's powerful. But Anyway, that started the path, because when I saw Ray Hunt, and I don't know if you've had the pleasure of seeing Ray work with horses or seeing videos of it, but he'd be in with, they'd bring him a bunch of renegades. He'd be in this round pen with 10 colts and he looked like a guru. I mean, these horses looked like I felt.
Mm.
Okay. So I was coming in as a renegade too, as you remember.
Mhm.
So I was a scrapper. I was Western. Nobody was tougher than me. I could drink you under the table. And I was proud of it even. And then I saw Ray and I saw those horses looked like I felt. And then I saw those horses soften
Mm.
and settle and move like the wind, and their eyes were full of of faith, trust for this guy sitting on the horse with a toothpick in his mouth, and and I was mesmerized. It changed me right then and there. And I thought, I am never leaving him.
And that's wonderful. And maybe for listeners who
Don't know
maybe
about.
in different discipline or work
Hmm.
with horses in a different way, would you sum up what Ray's work did and then now how you're carrying it forward? That would be wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. I love to talk about Ray. Actually, his beloved wife endorsed the book. It was, I know, really important to Ray to let this wisdom, we make it our own.
Mm.
It's not it's not his. He pointed us to it. And so Ray Hunt came on the scene very early, long, long before any horse whisperer was, popular. The book or the movie came out long in, early 60s, I guess is, uh, I don't know, I can't say for sure that was when, but he was starting to do these clinics with people, and he had met his teacher who was Tom Dorrance. Tom showed Ray. Ray was pretty cowboy, and Tom showed him that he could gentle that down and come from a more intuitive place, a more real place, not so much a get her done kind of thing, but a holistic, better the life of the horse.
Mhm.
And Ray just happened to have a horse that, as cowboy as he was, this horse couldn't be rode. So when he met Tom was kind of like when I met Ray, he was in need of that. And Tom just walks in and is like, horses are a bunch of lambs. So there was an understanding that there was another way.
Mm.
And he then made it his life's work. And I've never known a human being in all my life that was more dedicated to anything than Ray Hunt was to the horse and giving him a better deal.
Your book is so interesting. What I love is you share quotes from Ray, like a man of few words, and then like the fact that he even took on teaching like this awareness of yourself and awareness in a relationship with a horse.
Oh,
Like he couldn't do a manual on that. It's like almost you have to see to believe it, but you have to then take it on and be it. And you are being what he taught you, which is what your book is very much about.
Ray would say, to use a quote, I can't teach this. I
Hmm.
can only make you aware of it.
Hmm.
Okay. So segue then, how I wrote the book, the how, the inspiration in it was that it be an experiential book. This is not a technical book. It's not a self-help book. It isn't intellectual. The way that I wrote the book was to tell a story that would bring the reader into this emotional empathy to be able to relate to it. And, "Oh, I've been there, I know how hard that is," and they're reading and they're there in that emotional state, and then I bring the wisdom piece, so that that wisdom piece can be like a seed
Mm,
and be planted in a relatable way. And I can't speak for anyone else, but that's how I learn. I learn through experience, and I learn by, hear more than hear. And I know not everyone is that way. Many people need steps and, dogma and that, and that's good. That's a path that leads usually to even a deeper way of being. But what I offer in the book is an experience that brings the reader home like the horse brought me home. And that would be that the one thing that I hope that they would gain from it is that they would know themselves better,
mm,
and that they would be open to knowing the horse better, and they'd be open to knowing their family better, or their boss, or even maybe their nemesis, you know, is so that that relatability, that, and to me this is brings in the unity, which Ray spoke of harmony and Tom Doran spoke of unity, the name on their books. How do we do that if not from the heart? Not going to make it happen. You got to
yeah.
let it happen, you
Ex-
know.
exactly. And that's what I love so much about your book. It was an exploration almost
Mhm.
of separating the mind that thinks too much and you have conversations with
Yes.
yourself and
Yeah.
settling like here in the heart
Yeah.
and letting that guide you, particularly in a relationship with a horse. But the work that you've done and the teachers you had has extended all the way across. Like I heard appreciation for nature. I
Yeah.
heard just self-love. Like that is
Yeah.
even a huge component here. Like when you settle down and you get out of your head and you sit with the heart, like you can actually find love for yourself. And I think
Oh
we
yeah.
we don't do that enough, right? Would you agree? Would you agree that this has been an adventure and coming, like you said, coming home, but
Yeah.
like remembering to love yourself? Like I got a lot of that in the book.
Mm.
Is it
What is more important?
mm,
What is more important? Because we've been taught, and we've want to go out and love our horse or love others, but what, you can't give what you don't have,
100%.
you know. So you have to cultivate. And I now, at this stage in my life, I hope, I would love to see another book come in this stage of my life, because now I'm to a place where I'm not separating out, I love this or I love that. I leave that off. I love,
Mm, I love
you
that.
know. And yeah, see, it
I know.
grows.
I know, absolutely. Like let's have a love fest
It's a
here.
love fest. Yeah,
Like get out of the head, get into the
that's right.
heart and just love and accept and be with it. It's so interesting. I think that's why horses are so special to me, or animals, dogs, like anything. Like
Mhm.
what I love about them is they're now, right? And where
Yeah.
humans are is we're always future thinking or
Oh,
chasing the dangling carrot, and we miss so much because we're trying to get somewhere.
yeah,
Like the beauty, and that's what your book really talked about, is like the
yeah,
beauty is in the moment, like
yeah,
this conversation, how we're
yeah,
talking with each other, that we're even talking about this is
yeah,
beautiful. Like
yeah.
how we found each other, there's like magic all over the.
There is.
I know, like, you found Ray through
Yeah,
somebody who recommended him and he became your teacher. I know we were connected through someone that had, Lisa Dearson of the Equus Film and Arts Festival
yeah,
said, talk to Carly. Now here
yeah.
we are. I read your book and I was like, she knows what she's talking about, which is awesome.
Well,
So,
I tell you, I can know what I'm this is important, I wanna interject.
mm,
I can know what I'm talking about completely because it's my experience.
yes.
See, I can't debate like intellect,
Mm,
and that can be, look at our world.
mm,
Everybody has ideas and perceptions and concepts, and all we do is separate further and further and further. But we can each bring to the table our experience and offer that up. And who can debate it?
so based on the work that you've done, and which is so incredible, is you got really raw and you shared your own personal story. But I think it's an adventure everyone can relate with, because we're all thinking the same thing.
Mhm.
Like the and I think horses are definitely a conduit to coming with our hearts first. But like, what would you say? What after doing this and really thinking about it, because it's a you have to keep coming back to like the work you're doing. Like
Yeah.
it, if you don't use it, it goes away.
Yeah.
So you have to remind yourself of it all the time. Like what would you say would be the best way to heal some of the siloed separation things that are happening in humanity? Like, because we're a herd. You work with a herd. Like what do we do? How do we
Oh, God, I love that you asked that. How courageous, you know? Lovely. More people should ask things like that
Oh.
because yeah, let's talk about it. And it's very simple. That's part of the problem.
Mm,
It's very simple, and the mind likes things complicated.
mm,
And then we want to go into all these intricacies about he said, she said, we did, it needs to be this way or that, and we get more lost.
mm,
So I can make it very simple. And in fact, that is my work. It is very simple. That does not make it easy. It's difficult because we are in the habit of being complicated. And it's the same with the horse. It's the same with the horse. Um, and so the for me, in verbiage, of course, is kind of difficult because people have their own reactions to certain words. But you said a word separated that, what would and as my teachers talked about unity, right? So we have separation and we have unity. And I like to boil those two down and find the cause. Okay, because we're not going to help a problem by talking about its effects. We
mm,
want to get to the heart of it. And for me, I think separation, which I use the word fear
mm,
a lot. It's fear is what separates us. That's why people come with their horses because they're afraid. They don't know what to do next because they've acquired all this fear. And another great word is resistance, right? And so the horse has the same mirrored experience. They're full of resistance because they're full of fear. So and people, divorce and families and addiction and politics and religion and everywhere you can look anywhere in humanity, in any country, in any culture or walk of life, and you will see that separating ourselves from each other and using this resistance to stay separate is at the core of the problem.
mm,
So what is at the cure? So the cure is that we take care of our little piece of real estate. That and this is a big theme in my book, I won't settle for separation. It may come. I've had lots of people you come in and give me practice. I wrote, there's a chapter about it where I was at a clinic and there was someone there who we were separate and I got scared. I mean, it happens, but I won't settle for it. So I always come home to what I know to be consistent and true within myself. And the only thing that can be consistent and true in myself is my heart.
mm.
Because this body changes, my ideas change, my practices change. In the horse world, people will often go from one practice to another or one trainer to another. They're flitting around all over, but they're leaving the most important factor, which is themselves.
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh, well said. And that is the truth. It's like a calling back to
Yeah.
ourselves and our hearts, and like being grateful for us, like as humans.
Yeah.
And I love that. I mean, and I also loved in your book too, you talked about exactly what you just talked about there, but like you had that experience with the woman that the friendship kind of dissolved, but you
Yeah.
were able to be with her
Yeah.
in love. You didn't give it
Yeah.
all these meanings. And even when you had a relationship that ended,
Yeah.
you rather than avoiding it or making all these things wrong about it or saying all the things that you were, that could come up from a human
Yeah.
mind, you were just like, okay, it's time. And I do this in love. And it's like the seat of the soul almost.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. That's exactly what it is. And it is the creation of life.
Mm.
I mean, life has to be created from something that's positive and abundant,
Yeah.
right? It's not going to come from something that detracts or separates or kill. It's so simple. It's like Tom Dorrance used to say, it's written on the side of the barn.
I'm curious, like, what is the best part of this work that you're doing? But on the flip side, what is the most difficult part about it? Because I feel like there's in the work that you do, there's no excuses to be like unconscious or not like aware. So it's like constantly reminding yourself to have awareness. Like,
Mhm.
so what's the good part and what's like the more difficult part?
The good, bad, and the ugly, huh? You Well, the good part, the great part is that it is endless.
Mm,
It's so fun because we think in terms of limitations, or the mind does, and uh, what I live, it never ends. It just expands, and every day it's unbelievable, really, sometimes. So I've known some people that come to the end of their lives and they look back and they still have an empty box, you know? And I don't even have a box.
mhm.
There's no end to it. And that is the greatest reward. And my horses, by the way, because I actually do some blogging and things like that too, where I share my own personal experience with my horses. They don't have a box either.
Mhm. No,
There's no end note. There's no finished horse.
they're not thinking about that. Right.
They're just they just want to go jump the moon,
Mhm. And eat
And
some hay.
yeah, on the way.
Yeah.
But I mean, the work that I do with horses, they'll leave their hay for this.
Mm, that's
Oh,
amazing.
heck yeah. They want it. It's good stuff. But you're not probably going to go win a ribbon or, go to the Olympics. I mean, that's all good stuff too, but it's not this stuff that I'm
Mhm.
talking about. Because then when you win the ribbon, you go home and you have a ribbon. So this that I'm talking about is relationship. It goes and goes and grows, and it's a gas. So that's the best part, and sharing it with others is the most important calling in my life. That's why something had me write that book. Something had me write it. I did not write the book to be a writer. I was already a writer. I journal all the time. I love to write. I blog, I journal. I can't not write. I write constantly. But I had to publish a book because I had to share it. So the hard stuff,
Yeah.
the hard stuff, and there is a lot that comes up. That is kind of when I want to share something from the heart, and the heart is closed. It's closed for business. And people are stuck literally in this mind that is pushing back and resistant. And I can tell you the words that I hear on a weekly basis is, yeah, but what if, and if only, and all of those words, when I and many others, that now I could just hear them. No longer do they trigger so much because I just know who's talking. And
Mm.
so then I have to kind of sit back and there again look at him like a horse, like what would I, if the horse was blocked, how would I deal with this?
Mm.
And I always want them reaching for more. If they'll reach, I can open the gate. But if they are closed, then I literally kind of feel it's funny because I don't have a degree, thank goodness, because in psychology and in counseling, you're not allowed to have an emotional relationship with your clients. So I would fail miserably because I love them all, so I kind of, it's more of a spiritual sharing or life coaching or mentorship relationship. And so I feel some sadness when there is such a history of pain that I can't. And I mean, I am working with a horse right now that is coming 20, and he bucked his person off his whole life. And he's draft cross. I mean, this
Whoa.
dude buck, and I said, I will work with him, but there will be no agenda and no timeline. And what I have had to do with that is literally strip down. And people think I'm trying to make a Liberty horse because I'm riding bareback without a rope or a halter or anything. But the truth is a great metaphor. The truth of it is I stripped down the halter and the rope and the saddle and got rid of all those false sense of control that humans had tried to control him with. I can't control him. And he proved that by putting his owner in the hospital, right?
Yeah.
And so you're not going to do it that way. But one of the most powerful questions I've ever asked is, there must be another way. So I started going back and back and back, and now I'm naked. Well, not literally, it is me and him. The magic is intense.
Oh, yeah, because you're taking off all the expectations. Like that's the chapter. It wasn't with Fargo. No, or maybe it was Poco. I'm trying to remember where you.
I love that you know my horse's name.
Oh my gosh, there were such big characters in your book, but like where you were actually just being. Was it Poco or was it Fargo? Where you're just being with them, like you went and like did some chores and fixed a fence and
that was Fargo when he was a yearling.
Like you just went and did stuff together.
Build a fence with them.
Build a fence with them. I love that. Isn't that what Ray Hunt told you?
No, it was this fella that I really respect. I was at a Tom Dorrance clinic, and there was a guy there on a real Kiger stallion, not a captive Kiger stallion, the one that came out of the wild Kiger. And he was riding this, and I had great respect for this man. And during the break, he was sitting on him, and I was talking to him, and I said I had this yearling that didn't want anything to do with me. And he, cowboys, right?
Oh yeah.
So he says, well, build a fence with him. And he rode away. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. What the heck did he just mean?
There's so much in that though, and I love what you did with it. Like you pondered it, you kept thinking about it, but like the truth of it is like be with them, like go do stuff. Like and I love
irrigation pipe. I changed the oil in the pickup.
I know but it was awesome. Like because if we just put relationships, animals, people, whatever in like this box, like if we don't invite experience or like being with each other, and that's what I loved about you. Like so much of it was your book is like being with yourself and like loving yourself. But then like when you sit in that place, you can then extend it out and be like, okay, Fargo, I'll take you to fix the irrigation pipe and build a fence.
He'd want to go.
Yeah.
And today he's my riding horse, and he's 26.
Oh,
he's my heart horse without a doubt. Well, they all are, but he's my riding buddy,
Yeah, and he takes care of you. You've created the kind of connection where like there was even a chapter about this in your book where some crazy things happen, like a goat came out of the field, but because of grounding yourself in the relationship you had with him, like he was not, he didn't do the normal horse thing because you had a connected relationship and you guys worked together through a scary situation.
It actually happened this last week with my 2-year-old. I'm not even riding her yet, but I'll sit on her back, bareback, quite a bit, have been for quite a while, and but don't ask anything of her. And the dog went barking. That we live in the woods, and there's lots of wild animals out here, you know, and the dog ran out, and it was her first spook. And I was just sitting on her bareback, you know, we weren't doing anything. And she jolted, you know, and that was it. It
Uh,
was over.
yeah. So it was like a small thing, and
Yeah,
then she
well,
came
I
back to you.
jolted too. The dog jolted.
Of
You
course.
know, and that's an important piece. Oh, I could go on forever. I won't. But but that's important about fear. This
Mm-hmm.
is key elemental.
Mm-hmm.
That is an example that fear is supposed to be temporary.
Mm-hmm.
It has a purpose. You know, but human beings, they end up habituated in fear, and they don't let something pass. They don't let something happen and then it's over. But horses are geared that way. They'll just go back to eating their hay, you know? And while I was on her back, I was like, oh, I'm really glad I didn't screw that up in her yet. Hopefully I won't.
That's a great story. I'm so glad that you pointed that out about fear. Yes, being fear driven, like that's
Mhm.
why I feel like there's so much illness and so much sickness
Yes.
and so many, like why we can't get out of our heads, because
Yeah.
you're like, I love that you said fear is supposed to be temporary. We're not
Yes.
supposed to live in this constant state of fear. Fear is
Yes.
there to protect us.
Yes.
It's our animal instincts. It's
Mhm.
innate in us, but like we shouldn't hold it and
Mhm.
carry it all the way through. So the work that you're doing is acknowledging fear, but
Mhm.
like opening up so you can see like there's so much more available to you when you stop living and spinning your wheels in fear. Like that's really what I
Absolutely.
got.
That is key. That's key.
Yeah.
And it does change your health. It
Oh,
does change. You live longer, happier, healthier. It changes every aspect of life.
absolutely. So if you could go back in time before you met your teachers and like discovered this conversation about like tapping into like the universal energy is kind of what I want to say, like getting out of the head and getting into the heart. Like, what would you tell yourself before you discovered this work? Or what do you wish you had known?
I don't live in the past very often.
Good. Okay.
Yeah,
Fantastic. Don't live
yeah,
in the past.
yeah.
Like, don't go back there.
But I can say what I would tell someone who is young, because I
Mm.
work with youth. You know, I have a client that started when she was 16. I think she's 25. And it's so fun to, you know, to offer some of this up. And it for myself, it's no different. I would tell my teenage self the same thing I tell them. It's you are enough, you
Say,
know.
say it again for us, please. I think we all need to hear that one more time.
Well, it's I am enough.
Mm.
I am is such a powerful statement. I am, and we fill in the blank with all this noise, you know. But I am enough. And there's a great story in the book. I won't do a spoiler, but where I really learned that I had to look at what was I trying to be enough for? Like, that's the carrot at the end of the stick that you talk about, that we're trying to be enough. And then, like I said, I know these people that are coming to the end of their life with the empty box because they never even knew what they were trying to be enough for.
Mm. Yes.
It's empty. But right now, I go in anywhere. I could talk to the Pope about this, you know? I could go anywhere and feel like I am all right already. But like I say, what I offer my clients and well, my husband tells me it's client, friend, family. I say the same thing to everybody. You know, it's not different in one place or another. But what I offer is that right here, everything is provided. We have everything. We are enough. And as we accept that and see it, it expands.
Oh, that is lovely and wonderful, and the premise and the basis of your book. But also, I mean, I think we all need to hear that. I am enough, or we all need to say it to ourselves. I
Yeah.
am enough. And thank you for sharing that on this show. And how lucky are we that horses are an enabler for us to get to that space because they love us no matter what, right? And they offer that feedback, right? Like if they're
They
mad, right?
they offer it. They offer it like Ray offered his wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
But there has to be a taker,
Good
you
point.
know?
Yep.
And that's the whole journey for me is I could see outside of me, but I had to learn. That's the application.
Mm,
I had to allow it in.
for
That
sure.
I'm proud that I quit drinking, that I don't drink alcohol. I'm proud that I don't engage in debate and angry discussion. I'm proud. It's what somebody asked me on a comment on my Facebook the other day. That horse's name is Bubba, that big draft renegade, you know. And she said, can you say one thing you did that, because he transformed and I share it, right? So all the people are watching the transformation on my Facebook. And she said, can you say one thing that changed Bubba? Because he's obviously changed. One thing you did. And I said, sorry, I can't. But I have a whole list of what I didn't do.
Mm. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And that's it.
Yeah.
We're too busy doing. We have to start. And Ray would always say, can you do less? And now I'm asking myself, can I do nothing?
I love that.
You know?
Yeah.
And the truth is, yes. And that's why I'm riding him and everybody's singing the praises because Bubba's like, oh, finally, she shut up.
Yeah.
I have a chance.
The energy and the crazy stops.
Yeah.
It's almost like getting centered and like, because when you come to a horse with a whole lot of crazy, if you come to them and try to be as blank as possible, like they will show up for you. But it sounds like you gave Bubba like a clean slate again without all your emotional like karma and energy in there. Like what you said, like what I didn't do, can I do nothing? Like that's the essence of a solid relationship. Right.
And I would only correct you in saying,
sure,
Bubba gave it to me.
Oh,
I didn't give it to Bubba.
Yes.
And that's throughout the stories. That I'm the receiver of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the receiver of this. Thank you. My God, what a gift. Listen to us. I just talked to you all night long.
I know. I feel like we could go on for hours and hours.
We could. I know we could. But, but you're giving me this. It's I laugh because people say, it's all about you, isn't it? And I said, who else would it be about?
Yeah.
And then that's something that then I'm fulfilled and I get to give that back. Then it's real. It's true. It's not made up. It's not an empty box. And you know what? One time, I got a little short story about this. I had a 9-year-old girl in session with me in a personal session. And we were talking about labels and how, when you're labeled, it's really difficult to get over that. We start to wear it like a gown, And I said, yeah, I'm not big on labels. I said, I don't even know what to tell people what I do for a living. 9 years old. And she'd been talking with me about an hour. I'd never met her before. And she sits and she says, why don't you just call it Mary's Best? And I thought, that's all it is. Leave the doing to the effect. And then that's what follows. You just give your heart the best that you can at your level and level up. Level up. We're not done. We're not here to park.
Yeah. No, you start there and then you keep building upon that. But it takes something to have that kind of awareness. So you have to like constantly remind yourself of it. And for me, the greatest reminder is like nature, right? Like, so I look out and I'm like, that is being, right? Like, let me just be and be being rather than bringing all this clutter. I mean, like humans, we do it to ourselves, right? Like created all this stuff.
Noise.
Oh my gosh, yes. So it's like, Yeah.
The title of the book, uh, it's funny because I've gotten a lot of responses about that title,
Mhm.
depending on what the person's standpoint is. But Ray said something once that really drove that title home to me. He said, "Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect." So if what that meant to me was that if I continue to practice what is ineffective, I'll be very good at being ineffective. And I was building ranches, I had a beer in one hand, cigarette in the other, and I don't even know how I ever built a fence. But I was good at it. I was very effective. I had 3 businesses. I was successful. We call it looking good, going nowhere. And but when I realized that my whole life, looking back, I had practiced being ineffective.
Mm.
It took so much less effort to be effective. And that's why I named the book that, was that practice is what's important. And that's what I offer as a mirror to people that come and visit with me.
Mhm.
I offer a practice, a consistent practice. They show up. I say, I can't help you if you don't show up,
Mm.
you know. Just show up. Even if we didn't talk, showing up is enough. Because you're showing up for you, because this time is all about you. It's not about the kids. It's not about the husband. It's not about the horse. This is about you. And, so that's why it's not enough to have the wisdom. You have to practice it.
Absolutely. And beautifully said. Perfect practice, a philosophy for living an authentic and transparent life. I just, it was eye opening. It was awakening. This is the world I want to be in. Mary, thank you for contributing your words and your experiences, and for continuing to pass what you've discovered on, and teaching people to love themselves and kind of slow down and like, let's stop the noise. I just love that. I have so appreciated you being on the show today, and I would love to have you on again because I feel like we could pick a
Yeah.
topic and really
Oh,
dive into it. That would be a lot of fun.
I
But
anytime.
oh my gosh, for real. But like, what's next for you? Like, where are you heading with this? Like, what's next? Are you going to take it to that next tier and like expand, and like, what are you thinking? Or what projects do you have in mind, or are you just going to keep practicing perfect practice?
That's a good question. If we only knew what was next,
Right.
huh? Yeah, that would be $1 million knowing. I'm excited in the short term. I know there's a book percolating in me. I'm writing. I can't stop, and that usually tells me that I better start a manuscript, because it's just otherwise, I'm flooding the blogs, right? So
Hmm.
I'm rounding the corner into the stage of my life. I'm starting what's probably going to be my last horse,
Mm-hmm.
not last, but certainly probably my last colt, you
Yeah.
know,
Well, they live.
and
I mean, they live like your heart horse, my
yeah,
heart horse. She's been with me since my 20s. She's like 20 years old.
wow,
Like that's a long
yeah,
part of life.
it's
Like,
a long relationship.
yeah, it is.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
love that you're thoughtful about that too,
yeah,
right? This might be my last colt,
yeah,
because I
yeah,
feel like you're being mindful about the length of their life, right? And like
and,
the relationship you build. Those are things to think about.
and
And
the value,
yes.
that brings. That
Hmm.
when that there's not this infinite number of days left, then you pick and choose, and that's important in my future, is that I choose wisely, that I apply my time. This is absolutely uh, essential,
Mm.
that in my life I live this, that I share. You know?
Good. Well, and thank you, right? Like this is where it starts. It's the little seeds. You learn
Yeah.
something, you're passing it on, you're sharing it, you're growing it, you're creating a wave. Like,
Yeah.
it's like we can't tackle the whole world, but like these little
Yeah.
ripples and waves
Yeah.
have an impact. And
Yeah.
thank you for writing this book. Thank you
Oh,
for
thank
coming
you
on
for
the
reading it.
show. Thank you for sharing what you've learned. We will do another. But in the meantime, will you let listeners know where they can find out more about you, the work you do, and your book?
Well, okay, this is the technical part that I kind of fall short. I know it's on Amazon, uh, but I actually have some special edition books that I send out personally. And they can, if that's something of interest, they can find the book and some blogs and some other things on my webpage.
Mhm.
And that's just simply my name, marycorning.com. You know, I'm having so much fun in the barn, I don't usually get on the computer much.
High
So,
five, girl. Like I'm on the same page with you. Like go out and be in life rather than
yeah,
sitting behind a computer or
yeah,
being on your phone.
yeah.
And I have to say, I mean, Mary sent me a copy and she signed it with like this lovely
Mm.
signature here. And there was a beautiful card in it. I mean, you're just thoughtful. Like I felt your love before I even met you, just
Oh,
by how thoughtfully like our communication was before we set this up. So like that, we need more of that in the world, and I really
yeah.
appreciate that. So
Well,
thank you.
I'm all in, Carly. You call me up, we'll chat anytime. I love it. You're a great interviewer. You have excellent questions, and without a doubt, your heart is all in.
Hmm.
And I have an enormous amount of respect for you.
Oh, Mary, thank you so much. I'm so
Thank you.
touched. Thank you for the gift of your time.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Equestrian Author Spotlight podcast. I hope you enjoy these Q&A sessions with wonderful equine authors who love all things horses and riding, just like me. Visit my website, carlycadecreative.com, where you can read the show notes, and make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you so much for your support. Want a free guide to secrets of horsebook authors? Gallop over to carlycadecreative.com/wisdom to have author advice delivered instantly to your inbox. If you are an author who writes about horses and would like to be spotlighted, please let me know. Visit my contact page at carlycadecreative.com to fill out a request. I'd be happy to have you on the show too. Thank you for tuning in to the Equestrian Author Spotlight podcast. See you next time. I'm your host, Carly Cade. Creative writing makes my spurs jingle.